In this video, we'll be taking a look at two NFL games happening on September 29, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 4 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these two NFL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. New York Jets versus Miami Dolphins. Sunday night brings a primetime showdown featuring two bitter rivals who are both still searching for their first win of the season. The Miami Dolphins will host the New York Jets in what feels like a battle of desperation more than dominance. Both organizations are under the microscope, and Miami's head coach Mike McDaniel is already being talked about as a man whose job may be slipping through his fingers if results do not improve soon. The pressure is squarely on his shoulders in this matchup. The Dolphins have stumbled to an 0-3 start, most recently falling to the Buffalo Bills by a 31-21 margin. That contest was competitive for much of the evening, as Miami entered halftime tied at 14 and later found itself even at 21 in the fourth quarter. However, the closing stretch was all Buffalo, who tacked on 10 unanswered points. Statistically, Miami was clearly second best. They were outgained 360 yards to 276. They allowed Buffalo to convert 10 of 15 third downs, and they lost the turnover battle 1-0. Defensively, the Dolphins managed 2 sacks and added a pair of tackles behind the line of scrimmage, but the effort wasn't enough to turn the tide. Their earlier defeats were a lopsided 33-8 loss to Indianapolis and a tighter 33-27 setback to New England. On the season, Miami averages just 19 points per game while producing 192 passing yards and 89.7 rushing yards on average, and they are surrendering a troubling 32 points per game to opponents. The Jets, like Miami, also remain winless at 0-3, and their most recent defeat came in gut-wrenching fashion against Tampa Bay. New York trailed 23-6 well into the third quarter, yet somehow battled back to take a 27-26 lead late. Just when it appeared they would pull off a stirring comeback, they allowed the Buccaneers to kick a game-winning field goal with no time left. Statistically, New York fell short. They were outgained 347-267, converted only 3 of 11 third down tries, and turned the ball over twice without forcing any takeaways. The defense tallied 1 sack and racked up 7 tackles for loss, but those bright spots were overshadowed by the defeat. Their other setbacks include a narrow 34-32 loss to Pittsburgh and a one-sided 30-10 loss to Buffalo. For the year, the Jets are averaging 23 points per game while posting 144.7 yards through the air and 127 yards on the ground, yet their defense is leaking badly, giving up an average of 31 points per contest. Even though Miami walked away with a loss in their Thursday night appearance, the team gave one of its more encouraging efforts in Week 3. They displayed toughness on both sides of the ball, particularly on defense. The once-feared Dolphins passing game showed flashes of life, although through 3 weeks it still ranks poorly, with Tua Tagovailoa sitting 23rd in the league with just 575 passing yards. With 11 days of rest and preparation behind them, the Dolphins should have an opportunity to exploit a Jets defense that has allowed 7.6 yards per pass attempt, ranking 24th, and has surrendered 30 or more points in each of its last 2 trips to Hard Rock Stadium. If Tagovailoa cannot make strides against this opponent, it is hard to see when he ever will. Meanwhile, the Jets' most viable blueprint for victory resembles their Week 1 performance against Pittsburgh, when they dominated time of possession in a narrow loss. Since then, New York has been controlled in that category, trailing 70 minutes to 50 across 2 games, which has translated into predictable defeats. This week they face a Miami team averaging 5.2 yards per rush, 4th best in the league, although the Dolphins seldom lean on their ground attack, ranking second to last in rushing frequency. There are reasons for optimism in Miami's camp, starting with their defense. Even though they lost, the Dolphins limited Bills quarterback Josh Allen to just 213 passing yards and held Buffalo's offense to 6.3 yards per play. While those numbers may not seem extraordinary, considering the setting at Orchard Park where Buffalo is usually unstoppable, Miami's resistance looked respectable. New York, on the other hand, has very little to be hopeful about offensively. Many thought Tyrod Taylor would deliver a better performance than Justin Fields, Fields, but that hope vanished quickly. Taylor left the game with a 48.4 quarterback rating after being sacked 4 times, throwing an interception, and averaging only 5.5 yards per attempt. The Jets ended the day with only 267 yards of offense. Should Fields clear concussion protocol, he still offers little reassurance given his dreadful showing in Week 2 against Buffalo. Both teams limp into this contest desperate for their first taste of victory, though one side will finally break through on Sunday night. Miami has yielded 31 points or more in each of their 3 games, but their competitive outing against Buffalo suggested progress. The Jets are hamstrung by a backup quarterback and a defense that has consistently surrendered at least 29 points per game. Neither side inspires total confidence, but Miami has shown marginal improvement and gets the benefit of playing at home. For that reason, siding with the Dolphins seems the smarter call. As our first pick for this matchup, the Miami Dolphins to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. In past years, Hard Rock Stadium was synonymous with offensive fireworks, the type of spectacle reminiscent of the Golden State Warriors at their peak. Bettors and fans alike expected track meet scoreboards, as Miami's speed and creativity overwhelmed defenses and produced historic numbers. Head coach Mike McDaniel's offensive scheme appeared tailor-made for the roster, and for a time it delivered on every promise. Yet that explosive program has been absent this year. Against Buffalo, the Dolphins looked genuinely competitive for 4 quarters, but a late interception by Tagovailoa sealed their fate. Their offense mustered only 276 yards in that game. In Week 2, they looked somewhat sharper at home, posting 358 yards on a healthy 6.9 yards per play, though they struggled on 3rd downs, 4 of 10, and reached the red zone a mere 2 times. Meanwhile, the Jets' offense continues to resemble a broken machine. This is hardly surprising given the issues plaguing the roster, but the numbers speak volumes. They average just 271.7 total yards per game, ranking 26th in the league, with a passing attack generating only 144.7 yards per game, 2nd worst in the NFL. While the defense occasionally sparks some offense through opportunistic plays, it cannot cover up an anemic passing game and an inconsistent line. Ultimately, both teams bring flawed offenses into this meeting, and the likely outcome is a defensive struggle with very few explosive plays. Neither quarterback has demonstrated efficiency through the first month, and neither team seems capable of sustaining long drives consistently. Both will likely miss the playoffs if the current trends continue. The weather forecast calls for warm conditions and little wind, which in theory could help Miami's offense rebound, but 3 straight weeks of poor execution suggest optimism may be misplaced. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Cincinnati Bengals versus Denver Broncos. The Week 4 edition of Monday Night Football delivers a meeting between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. Cincinnati enters this primetime clash at 2-1 following a discouraging road defeat against the Vikings, while Denver comes in at 1-2 after losing a hard-fought contest against the Chargers. For the 2nd consecutive week, Denver quarterback Bo Nix and his teammates came up just short in another tightly contested game. In fact, every one of Denver's first 3 outings has been decided by a single score, with the average margin across those games hovering around 4 points. That statistic reveals 2 things. The Broncos are competitive, yet they continue to fall on the wrong side of close finishes. While problems exist on both offense and defense, the offensive unit has been the larger letdown. Nix has not yet looked comfortable, ranking near the bottom of the league in yards per attempt at 5.6 and connecting on only 64.21% of his passes. His QBR sits at 41.8, tying him for 25th. And advanced metrics grade him as one of the weakest starting quarterbacks in the league. By contrast, Denver's rushing attack has been a genuine bright spot, averaging 5.2 yards per carry, 5th in the NFL, and producing 129 rushing yards per game, good for 8th. The defense remains one of the team's strong suits as well, especially in the red zone where they rank 2nd in limiting touchdowns. The silver lining for Nix and the offense this week is that they'll square off against a Cincinnati defense that has looked like one of the NFL's worst through the early stretch of the season. Cincinnati's campaign has already veered into concerning territory due to another serious injury to franchise quarterback Joe Burrow. Without him, the Bengals look adrift, and their defense has not been strong enough to offset the offensive collapse. Minnesota, which had struggled previously, suddenly looked like a title contender in Week 3, racking up 352 yards and dropping 48 points on Cincinnati. Meanwhile, the Bengals' offensive output was downright alarming. They managed just 3.3 yards per play, picked up only 12 first downs, and totaled a meager 179 yards. Backup quarterback Jake Browning wilted once again under pressure, throwing 2 interceptions after tossing 3 the previous week in Jacksonville. The Bengals' rushing production was nearly non-existent as well, with only 53 yards gained on the ground. Now Cincinnati faces the unenviable task of traveling again, this time to battle one of the best pass rush units in the league, a group that ranks 4th in sack rate through 3 games, taking down opposing quarterbacks on nearly 10% of plays. It's difficult to feel confident about backing a Denver team that has failed to inspire over its first 3 games, but it's even harder to put faith in Cincinnati at this point. The Bengals continue to struggle on defense just as they did last season. Their ground game is ineffective, and Browning appears overwhelmed whenever the pressure arrives. Denver, for all of its inconsistencies, still has a defense capable of dictating terms, and it should be able to create the same headaches for Cincinnati's offense that Minnesota did last week. The Broncos also have history on their side, having covered in 9 of their last 12 games as favorites. All signs point toward Denver controlling this matchup, while Cincinnati is left scrambling for answers. As our first pick for this matchup, the Denver Broncos to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Looking ahead, Jake Browning is almost certain to spend much of Monday night under pressure once again, though there are subtle indicators that some regression to the positive could occur. Denver's defense has been exceptional in generating sacks, yet across 3 games it has also allowed 6.7 yards per pass attempt and 212.7 passing yards per game. Opposing teams have ultimately found ways to average 21 points and 327.3 total yards against this unit. To be fair, 2 of those games came against above-average offensive squads, which helps explain those numbers. Cincinnati's offense doesn't currently fit that description, but it does feature elite-level receiving talent. If Browning can be afforded time in the pocket, he has shown that he can deliver accurate throws within the system. The run game remains an unresolved issue, but Denver's defense surrenders 114.7 rushing yards per contest, a vulnerability Cincinnati may attempt to exploit. As for the Broncos' own offensive production, it has been underwhelming to say the least, especially in the passing game. However, history shows Bo Nix is more than capable of torching weaker defenses, particularly when playing at home. Last season, he led Denver's attack to an average of 34 points per game against teams like the Raiders, Panthers, Falcons, Browns, and Colts. He has dependable weapons in Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and against a Bengals defense that just surrendered nearly 50 points, opportunities should be there. Cincinnati, for all its issues, still fields a dangerous receiving core of its own, with T. Higgins and dynamic rookie Jermaine Burton capable of explosive plays. Even with Browning under center, the Bengals have enough firepower to put points on the board. The combination of Denver's offensive ceiling at home and Cincinnati's glaring defensive problems points toward more scoring than many expect. The Broncos were considered one of the league's most intriguing teams heading into the season, and this Monday night matchup offers them an opportunity to prove those expectations were not misguided. If both quarterbacks show even modest improvement from their recent play, the offensive output could be enough to surpass the set total. The situation feels ideal for a bounce back on the scoreboard. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.